Hey guys, it's Graham. I'm a trucker. I read a lot of books. I talk about them on the drive home. Listen to the end. Today's book is Old Gods Waken by Manly Wade Wellman. That name always trips me up. It sounds like it wants to come out as well made manly man. It's just weird. This is not my first time reading this book. I read it about 2 years ago on the recommendation of, I believe, David J. West. It's the first that I've read in this series called John the Balladeer. And from what I understand, this is a character who just kind of wanders around with a guitar in Appalachia and he encounters weird stuff. And given my budding interest in Appalachia and lore and the superstitions of the region in recent years, I thought that this was a good fit. And I enjoyed it the last time I read it, and I enjoyed it again this time. And I think I was finally able to put my finger on something unique as to why. The general plot of this one is that John the Balladeer is out visiting some friends who suddenly find themselves in a bit of a land dispute with the next door neighbors. This is unusual, but he sees them like driving in fence posts on what is clearly his part of the land boundary and always has been. But they go to visit him, and all of a sudden, just weird things start happening. And as John is there and he's observing the interactions between these two neighbors, he constantly gets this feeling like he's being watched, like there's somebody observing him. And he realized that a charm has been planted on him, and there are curses and hexes involved, and he's got to go consult with some friends of his who know about occult things, and they're able to kind of break the hex and figure out who's behind this and what's going on, why is all this weird stuff happening all of a sudden, and who's behind it. As they start pulling the threads and peeling back the onion layers, they realize that somebody is messing with the powers of old arcane gods, and that these old gods have been tweaked by the introduction of new gods. You've got old Indian magic involved between the Cherokee and the Cheyenne, and stuff that was in the pantheon of deities to civilizations that even predated the Native Americans, and they got corrupted and crossbred by gods that were brought over from Europe in the post-Columbian era, and now just weird things are waking up, and they've got to be put down. And so that's the main brunt of the story from there. It's a woman gets captured, and John the Balladeer and his friend Reuben Manco, who's a Cherokee medicine man, they've got to go rescue the girl Holly and the others who have been captured and put away these old gods before they get up to new tricks. Haha. My epiphany on this one is, like, this is what happens when you write a story about people who use superstition-based logic in a way that makes sense consistent with this kind of insular culture. If you were to go to any mainstream publisher or screenwriter and say, I want you to write about a bunch of backwoods Appalachian people solving a problem according to their own superstitions, more often than not, you would get a representation that looks like, hey, here's some hillbillies, and they're going to get together and they're going to talk about how bad the government is and vaccines and whatever. Like they would do a really negative, stereotypical caricature of what they think hillbillies and swamp folks and mountain people are. When it's more complicated than that, and I would even say it's more elegant than that. And it's definitely worthy of being taken just a little bit more seriously than that. In this case, you've got people who have formal education to some degree or another, but they also believe in esoterica and, again, arcane things, spiritual truths, and calling on the powers of the divine to throw off the powers of the infernal. And they combine those things with what is a spiritually logical approach to repelling the powers of malevolent entities. There's a Instagram account that I've followed in the last couple of months or so. She's this girl, I think her name is Shay. I don't know how to pronounce her handle, actually. I've seen her reels pop up here and there. She's from Kentucky, and she's got this very, very thick rural Appalachian accent. and she does videos just about her culture, her family. She still lives in like her family home, and she talks about like things that the locals believe, and she'll do like funny Appalachian word of the day things. So you kind of like Jeff Foxworthy jokes about how they mispronounce things and it'll mean something else. But at the same time, like you can tell that she's proud of her culture and she takes it seriously. She's not weird about it. This is just the way that she lives. And if you were to write about somebody who was earnestly from that culture, trying to solve the problem as it was presented in this novel, then you'd get the result of the novel. And I thought, there's something endearing about that, and I've enjoyed it. I'm going to read more of these John the Balladeer books. They're not all available on audio. I'll have to see what I can do about digging up ebooks and stuff. But I liked it. I don't know if I'll be mainlining them or blitzing them the way that I have with other series, but twice I've read this one and I've enjoyed it about the same both times, so I'm looking forward to a positive experience there. Another book that I did finish today, I didn't read most of it, but I finished it today, was Mountain Man by David Weston Marshall. This is an account of a mountain man named John Coulter, who was off with the Lewis and Clark expedition. He's a man about whom we have few historical details. We don't know how he grew up. We don't know when and where he was born. We don't know exactly when and where he died. But he was an exemplary mountain man and well versed with the Mountain West, and he became an invaluable resource, especially when it came to cartography, to the Lewis and Clark expedition. What we do know about his life and what we know about the Native American tribes that he was, what's the word that I'm looking for, like that he was in well with, is all put together in this book to make a great narrative about the impact that Coulter had on the expedition and its success. He talks a lot about the way that different Mountain West tribes lived, especially the Shoshone, about how a lot of them had this kind of universal Indian sign language, that most of it was done with the right hand in case they needed to use their left hand to hold a cloak around themselves in the winter and that kind of thing. And how it was a very intuitive-based sign language, and John Coulter was able to pick it up really well, and he was able to use it going from tribe to tribe. How he learned their ways of dead reckoning to navigate across huge stretches of land, and how that set of navigation skills that he had led him to create some of the most accurate maps that anybody ever had, even for land that he hadn't seen a whole lot. He was able to do it based on his communications with the different Native American tribes out there, and then write it all down. And for somebody who was not using 20th and 21st century accurate electronic gadgets and stuff, he kept remarkably accurate cartographs, and those were instrumental in, like I said, in the success of the Lewis and Clark expedition around that area. I would highly recommend that book. I found it fascinating. I wish I could remember who had recommended it. Apparently, Washington Irving wrote a lot about John Coulter in specifics. Apparently he knew the man around the time that he did the expedition, and he also did some writings about the expedition itself. I know that Washington Irving wrote about life on the plains in Oklahoma, and he recorded stuff about the tribes out here. But I think I've really underestimated the breadth of his writings, especially in the early 19th century, and the different figures that he was able to mingle with throughout his professional career. I just really need to read more of the man's work. But those are the two books I finished today, the reread of Old Gods Waken and Mountain Man. Hearty endorsement for both of them. I gave them both 4 stars individually, so there's a bit of a double feature for you. If you've read them, let me know what you think. I could have sworn maybe it was a commenter in one of the videos that I can't remember now who had recommended Mountain Man. But there it is. Check it out. Let me know what you think. As for the rest, the usual rigmarole. I've been doing a series over on the Cracker Stack where once a day I'm breaking down the history of a different Christmas carol from now until the 25th. So far I've covered O Holy Night and Good King Wenceslas. And so you can subscribe to the stack over there and see how those are playing out, along with other written and detailed reviews of books that I'm writing, or excuse me, books that I'm reading. Till next time, drive safe. See you out there.